an honor to introduce Professor Jean Rossier as Blaise Pascal Medal for the division of medicine and life science. If I can summarize the life and contribution of Jean, I would say that you are some kind of a symbol of diversity and duality. First, you are a citizen of two countries, Belgium and Switzerland. You are MD and PhD. And you have brought very important contribution in the field both of biochemistry, neurochemistry, and in the field of cellular and molecular biology. So you are a very diverse person. You are a member of the French Academy of Science, member of, as a foreign participant. You are a member of European Academy of Science, of course, and you are a member of the Royal Academy of Medicine of Belgium. You have been awarded several prizes. For instance, Grand Prix Claude Bernard of the Paris City, the Nature Lifetime Award for Mentorship, and the Julius Axelrod Award in Pharmacology. In the field of science, I will make it very short because you will present it, but just you are honored today because you have pioneered a new discipline in biology, which is called single-cell genomic. Your seminal experimental work was the identification of a single neuron by profiling its expression of genes. In 1989, your laboratory diverted a patch clamp pipette to aspirate the inner content of a single neuron, which opens the way to the complete molecular characterization of all the receptors and all protein of this single neuron. So it was for the first time in history possible to distinguish between single cell and single neuron, which were characterized by specific channels, whereas before only population of neurons were available. So this amplification by reverse transcriptase PCR that we call single-cell RT-PCR, it's now expanded all over the world, despite of original skepticism. And today, if you do a PubMed search on single-cell PCR or single-cell genomic, you find something like about 100,000 publications. So thanks to this contribution, which was published in many important papers, such as Science, Nature, Nature Methods, Neuron, PNAS, Gene Neuroscience, Gene Neurochemistry, and Molecular Psychiatry, we are very happy to have here and to accord this Blaise Pascal Medal to Jean Rossier. Congratulations.
Thank you. Thanks a lot. Thanks a lot, Daniel, for what you did to present my CV for this very renowned prize, the Blaise Pascal Prize in Medicine and Life Sciences. For a start, I'm showing you a picture of Blaise Pascal. It's very well known in France as a philosopher. He wrote a book called Pensée, but also a mathematician. And to help his father, you see on the right what's called the Pascaline, the first calculator was never ever made. To help his father was collecting dues, he was collecting impôts, it was a fermier général, and he was very, very, very rich. Pascal almost died one day because he had this carrosse with 4 horses. Four horses, it's quite expensive, even today. And then he fell down almost in the Seine and was almost killed, but good for us. He continued to work until 1662. So, he died quite early. He was not a very good constitution. He was He was a small child, and he had a lot of children diseases. But so in 39 years old, he did a lot. So I am very proud to get this Blaise Pascal award, medal, and I will put the medal in my home. And I got it, as Daniel told you, to be one of the pioneers of single-cell genomics. And single-cell genomics is leading to the present large international program on the Human Cell Atlas, and in the States, by the NIH, the Human Biomolecular Atlas program. These two programs are following the great Human Genome Project, which was done between 1993 and 2003, to sequence the 3 billion of nucleotides which are in the genome, in our genome, in the human genome. So, for the people who are not aware of what is molecular biology, I just want to present this slide about the theme of single-cell genomics. The dogma is that all the information is coded in our double helix in the form of the DNA, and so we have 2 double helix per cell. Then you will get what's called the transcription. The transcription is to transform the DNA in messenger RNA, and their messenger RNA will then be translated to give proteins. Today we will not speak about this part, the translation in proteins. We'll concentrate on the DNA in a single cell and on the mRNA in a single cell. So, as I told you, we have 2 double helix per cell, and why only? 25,000 genes, because a single organism like Escherichia coli has already 2,000 genes. And when you compare Escherichia coli to human being, you think that we should get much more genes than that. And well, that was really the idea. Before this big effort of sequencing the genome, and we came, well, we are only 10 times more complicated than Escherichia coli. Now, to go to the transcription. If you have only 2 double helix in a cell, you will get millions of mRNA in a single cell. And I will say 10,000 to 15,000 of different genes are expressed in a cell at one time. And also, the number of transcripts by single cell is quite high. You could get, of course, 1, that's the minimum, or 0 if the gene is not at all transcribed. But you could get up to 100,000 copies, which is quite a lot in a single cell. So what we did this single-cell RT-PCR after patch clamp. Patch clamp is to use electrodes, and you see the electrode over here, which is put on the surface of this neuron, and then you could get the current. You inject current, and you will see that that cell will discharge action potential. And so that's really the patch clamp. The patch clamp was the product of Zachman and Nair, who got the Nobel Prize in 1991 for that type of work. So what we simply do is that instead to use only the electrode to register the electrical activity of the cell, we use the electrode to aspirate the innards of the cell, transform the mRNA with reverse transcriptase, going so DNA, cDNA, and then do a multiplex PCR amplification. And you can see that the material that we get from that single cell contain GAD, which is the enzyme making GABA, making the inhibitory neurotransmitter, and some other protein, and I will not describe over here. So in the pipette, you also put biositinin, which is a marker which has a fluorescent, as you can see, and then you can label the complete cell, and you get the anatomy. So at the same time, you get the anatomy, the physiology of the cell, and also what type of mRNA the cell is doing. And so that was really the stuff we did. We did that for what? Because we are neuropharmacologists, you know, and we wish to characterize the electrical response of the cell when we apply a neurotransmitter, glutamate. Glutamate is the excitatory neurotransmitter, and we look at the presence of some of the subunits. Why we did that at that time? Because the number of subunits responding to glutamate were very numerous. It was really an embarrassment of genes responsible to make the receptor for glutamate. And so we wish to see in a single cell which type of mRNA we had there. And we did that on we start, of course, with a larger cell, the Purkinje cell, and we use that to characterize from that single cell the type of subunits forming a channel, the receptor channel. And we did that in the 1992, and we continue to do that. And we had these two papers. We were published in 92 and 94. And then, well, we had to publish. And I may say it was difficult, because the people did not believe it was possible. It was really a blockade between the molecular biologist and the anatomist and the physiologist. You need thousands of cells to do single cell, to do RT-PCR. And we prove was not the case. So we sent our manuscript, and it came back many times. And eventually, one of the referees wrote that the authors have performed all the controls asked. I accept their paper, although I am still convinced that performing single-cell PCR is impossible, and impossible was in capital in his letter. So today, on October 29, 2019, keyword single-cell genomic and single-cell PCR retrieve 100,000 and 25,000 publications, respectively, on PubMed. I may say it's a good score for an impossible task. So then we became interested in characterizing all the different types of neurons we were working on. And in that paper, we analyzed the interneurons of the cortex, some of the interneurons of the cortex. And at that time also, it was in 97, referees were a little difficult, I may say. And one referee did not see the interest of this botanical type of exercise. Well, it was like Linné, like the other people characterizing, and Aristotle, maybe, coming back to Aristotle, doing some lineage, trying to see what number of species we had on Earth. And this type of botanical is now really all over the world, and you will see by the Human Cell Atlas and the other, the people will really want to do that on all the cells of a human being. So then we continue to work on, and we introduce the use of unsupervised clustering. And that type of analysis is really the standard, the canonical standard for single-cell genomic studies at the present time. So, one of the studies that we did is over here. We look at the interneurons in the cortex, and we look at only 200 neurons. And with that, you can see that we get 5 types of interneurons according to the expression of their mRNA for defined gene. And for example, we have VIP, very important peptide, no, vasointestinal peptide, somatostatin, and parvalbumin. That's the type of neurons the people have analyzed since a long time. So, but it came in 2009. Azim Sourani from the Gordon Institute at the University of Cambridge invent a technique to do mRNA sequencing on whole transcriptome analysis of a single cell. At that time, he used only 5 cells. And he was able to show the distribution of the various mRNA, which are important in the early stage of the blastomere, the formation of the blastomere. And then everything changed suddenly because it was used by other people making this type of botanical type of analysis, so looking at the different type of neurons. So you see, we have millions of transcripts in a single cell, 10,000 to 15,000 different genes transcripts. The cytoplasm of a single cell contains up to 100,000 copies of mRNA of a single gene, and single scRNA-seq identifies all transcripts and determine modification. That's good too, because you could look at the splicing and the editing of all these single transcripts, and it will give you a dynamic analysis of the transcription. The old versus the new is non-spliced, the old is spliced. So you could do a dynamic knowing exactly when the mRNA is synthesized. And one of the success of that approach, and you see that success is done on 20,000 cells at the Allen Institute in Seattle. And with 20,000 cells, they got 125 different clusters. So the cells there express a set of mRNA. And I showed you just previously that in our work we had some VIP, SST, and parvalbumin. They were only a single cluster. And here you see that with this amount of cell, we could get much more, 8 clusters for the parvalbumin, 18 for the SST, and 14 for the VIP. So then, when you add more cell, you get more clusters. So you could see the difference between cells which are close to each other. And then it was a recent paper describing a Curie database. It reveals the trends in single-cell transcriptomics by Valentin Svensson, which is in the Human Cell Atlas. And the idea, you will see, it's growing so fast. You see here the number of papers with clustering of single cell. Over here, up to 50 per month at the present time. And before that, in 1997, you had only 1 or 2 of this type of or paper. Then you have the Tang and Sourani paper in 2009, and now you see that we have plenty of this paper. And they use different technique for that. And the general idea of that is that more cells you analyze, more cluster you are finding. For example, you see, if you look at only 10 cells, you cannot get more than few clusters, that's for sure. When you go up to 1,000 cells, you see that you can get 10 clusters or a little more. When you go to 100,000, then you will get about 100 clusters. And when you get to 1,000,000, you will get 1,000 different clusters. So that's where we are at the present time. And the idea changed now with this new technique. This new technique is ATAC, is the assay for transposase accessible chromatin. Is to look not at the mRNA, where you see that you have plenty of copies, but only at the single cell DNA, the two double helix. And you wish to see which are the ones in use and how are they used. And so at the present time, it's possible to go to analyze the genes which are which are reading for the so you look at the mRNA profiling of a single cell. It is regulated by the gene transcription machinery, and that is giving the last. That was the paper, the first paper on ATAC, and so you have single cell ATAC, and the paper just out last week about high throughput sequencing of the transcriptome and the chromatin accessibility in the same cell by scientists at UCSD. And they do a joint profiling of accessible chromatin and mRNA profiling within the same cell, permit direct matching of transcriptional regulation to its output. Single-cell genomic with the development on single-cell ATAC-sec, -sec, and single-cell RNA-sec describe the complete analysis of a single cell with description of its accessible chromatin, only two molecules per cell, as I stress, and the mRNA, splice and edited profiling. All that was a pipe dream in the 90s, and it became reality today. So the Human Cell Atlas project is now underway. Comprehensive reference maps of all human cells, 30 trillions of cells, will become a basis for both understanding human health and diagnosing, monitoring, and treating disease. Myself, I feel very glad and honored that EURASC has awarded me the Blaise Pascal Medal for my contribution to the field. And, oh, merci beaucoup. And I will end this talk by some personal feeling. Yes, as a witness to 50 years, well, I'm 75, you know, of biological research, I made a good choice 50 years ago when I embraced a career of a scientist. I could have been a medical doctor, and my mother would be very pleased to keep me taking some patient in and out. So, but I did not do that. I did science, and I may say that science gives me joy. Yes, science is a source of happiness with the necessary questions and frustration. Yes, that we had a lot of frustration, but a lot of pleasure too, to keep desire alive. And it's important to have some frustration. If not you don't continue. And what I like in science, it is a space of infinite freedom. Thanks a lot.
This was at the level of what I expected. Maybe a little bit too sophisticated for some of the people here, but I think you got the substance of it, which is complete characterization of what is contained in a single cell, and then assessment of the diversity of cells in an organism, and to understand the complexity of life, and specifically of the neuronal system
Yes.
of brain.
Yeah.
So thank you very much again. And,
Merci. Thank you very much.